Hello and welcome back to the Game Room, this time around for a game hunting video in Oxford, England. This is sort of the unofficial second half of my trip to Europe. The first half I looked for video games in Copenhagen, Denmark. I'll link that video above if you want to check that one out. And this time around we're looking for PAL exclusive, European exclusive games that were never released in North America in Oxford, England. I'm going to take you along on all of my travels, show you all the cool stuff we did along the way, and at the end I will absolutely show you all the things I picked up. And let's get into it right now. Welcome to the beautiful and historic city of Oxford, England. Located just 56 miles northwest of London and home to the University of Oxford, the oldest university in the English-speaking world, and that's really something that resonates the entire time you're visiting. We're talking about a place that earned its city status way back in the 1500s. Everything about Oxford is steeped in history and tradition, and it's almost a visual overload just how much beautiful architecture surrounds you in every direction you look. The weather in England is pretty much everything you've heard about it. Things tend to stay generally in a constant state of dampness, and it rains basically any time you look the other direction, but it makes you appreciate every time the sun comes out just that much more. The food is incredible, and I definitely made sure not to skip out on any local cuisine, or drinks for that matter. If you are a fan of Harry Potter, Oxford has more than a few things for you to check out. It's possible to see a few of the filming locations for the films, and even a pub where the actors and crew would hang out after filming. First up is the medieval Divinity School, part of the University of Oxford. Built in the 1400s, it is the oldest surviving purpose-built building for the university. It also happens to be the filming location for the infirmary scenes in the Harry Potter films, as well as the dance lesson scene in the Goblet of Fire film. Founded in 1546 by King Henry VIII, Christ Church is easily the most popular tourist destination of all of Oxford's colleges. Christ Church was used as a filming location for many Harry Potter scenes, and the dining hall, although not actually used as a filming location, was clearly a huge inspiration for the films. And what's a Harry Potter-inspired day without a stop for a butterbeer? Oxford's Turf Tavern is steeped in tradition and legends, but what's really cool is that it served as a place for the cast and crew of the Harry Potter films to relax and have a drink after a day of filming. Butterbeer is absolutely on the menu and only available here. It's a delicious nod to the fictitious drink in the books and movies, but it's also a 4% beer, so maybe just not for kids. If you are at all a fan of sports and traveling through England, it is so worth it to try to find tickets to a soccer match at any level. We had the chance to watch League One team Oxford United play at their Cassim Stadium while visiting, and although they lost 2-1 in full time to Peterborough, it was an absolute blast to watch. Alright, it is finally time to hunt for some video games, but before we do, it's important to fuel up and have adequate hydration if you're going to be out hunting for games, especially if that's in England. And so, I was really lucky. My brother-in-law hooked me up with a lot of great beer while I was there on this trip, and the Oxford Beer and Cider Fest was no exception. So we took a stop into there prior to game hunting and sampled a little bit of what they had on offer.
So this is camera, so it's the campaign for real ale. So there was a real pushback against like European lager and draft beer. And the idea was to save the British homegrown beer industry. So that's why all these beers are kind of the same.
Amazing.
They're all brown, they're all very lightly carbonated, and they're all mostly consumed by old men.
And delicious.
But they are delicious.
Alright, we are all fueled up and ready to hunt for some video games, and you know, you might be thinking, Oxford doesn't seem like the best spot to hunt for video games, it's pretty old, are there any video game shops? Well, there are. I found two, and the first one's called Uplay. Admittedly, shops like this tend to specialize in things like cell phone and electronics repair, but he does have a pretty decent selection of video games too. Unfortunately, that list of video games is made shorter by the fact that I'm only looking for games that were released in Europe exclusively, and those games need to play on North American consoles. Luckily, I do have a Super Nintendo that's capable of playing European games, and so the first game that I find is Sensible Soccer European Champions. A pretty cool, fast-paced 2D top-down sports game that's come recommended from a lot of channels featuring European exclusive games. And you know, how fitting is it that I pick up a soccer game as my first game in England? I end up having to leave the store to get a little cash, and when I come back, he's got a present for me. Oh, cool. Right on.
Maybe someday you'll find the game.
Yeah, well, I do try to explain to him. You know, in Canada, our boxes are different, so, but it's still cool. Now I have a... But he insists. Now I have a FIFA box,
when
so...
you come across the game, you'll
Yeah,
thank me someday for that.
exactly.
All right?
Thank you so much. Either way, thanks a lot for the gift. I appreciate it. It is my last day in Oxford, and I've only really managed to find one game shop that sells used video games, but I'm taking a cab out to this strange little mall, and there's a game store called CEX out here that I'm about to check out. I'm not sure how promising it's going to be, but it's my last chance at retro games here in Oxford on my last day, so let's go check it out. Now this next pickup's a bit of a strange one because I don't generally go out of my way to pick up memory cards, but this Nintendo GameCube Pokemon Colosseum Edition memory card had to come home with me because I don't have one in my copy. And even though the 59 block memory card is the smallest of the three that Nintendo released, this one's still a pretty cool one, and I get to add it to my copy of Pokemon Colosseum. Next up is a pretty cool little pickup for the Game Boy Color, as it's a game that's based on a 1960s British television show, and that's Thunderbirds. Thunderbirds was a pretty unique show featuring marionettes that aired in the 60s, and it saw a resurgence in the 1990s as well, here in Canada at least. Obviously, it was popular enough to receive a game, which is sort of a mix of puzzle games and top-down shooter elements. Pretty neat, and cool little memento from my trip to England. Something I like to do before I travel is check to see if there's anything I'm interested in online that's cheaper to ship to where I'm going than it is to ship to my house here in Canada. And I did manage to find one PAL exclusive game that was cheaper to ship to my sister's place in Oxford. Oh, thanks. And the game that I ordered to replace was... Haven. From distributor Limited Run, Haven is a pretty cool two-player couch co-op game. features two lovers who are stranded on an alien planet and look to work together to find parts and fix their ships to head back home. Not only is it a really cool addition to my collection because it's a limited run game and I'm all about those, it's also a really great couch co-op game which I'm definitely interested in adding to my collection. Now, if all those great finds weren't enough already, I was sitting in Oxford and really wanted to make sure that this episode was jam-packed with European exclusive pickups, so I went online and ordered a couple games that I've had my eye on for a while that are exclusive to Europe and had them shipped back here to the game room, and so I've got that parcel with me here, and let's crack into it. I ordered 2 games to the game room, and the first of those 2 is In the Rays of the Light. From developer 7th Sector, In the Rays of the Light is, well, first and foremost a walking simulator, but it does take place in a really cool, kind of empty doom and gloom world, post-apocalyptic, and features a lot of sort of strolling around and trying to figure out what happened in this world while solving puzzles, and it's got a little bit of a creepy vibe going on, and while I'm not sure it's a horror game, it definitely has an atmospheric thing going on that is a must for anyone who's into this sort of game. Pretty cool and definitely a neat addition to the collection. And the other game that came in that order was one that I've had my eye on for a while. That's Inspector Waffles. You know, this game just has way too many cool things that as a game collector I go crazy for, and to start, just look at that cool cover art. You know, the game's got a really cool art style. It's a detective game featuring a cat trying to solve a murder in a town called Cat Town, with a bunch of anthropomorphic cats and dogs and other animals. Way too cool not to check out. It's been on my radar for a long time, and what a cool opportunity to order this European exclusive and add it to my PS4 collection. Hey, thanks so much for sticking around to the end and checking out my visit and game hunting adventures in Oxford, England. It was really cool to have you along for the ride. If you haven't already, check out some of my other game hunting videos. I've got a bunch of stuff in Ottawa and Copenhagen and Fredericton. There's a bunch of game hunting videos. There's actually a playlist for all the game hunting I've done, so please feel free to check out some of those videos as well if you haven't. And subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff goes a long way into helping my channel grow. I appreciate it. I'll absolutely catch you on the next one.